Good evening, everyone. Hi, welcome, welcome. Thank you so very much this morning. This morning? Yes, today. I am really excited today to share my platform. Tanya Inspires is really excited to present some vital information that really needs to be shared. And I have with me some amazing ladies. And I'm just going to kick this off right now and let them introduce themselves. And I will just join in where appropriate. Thank you so very much, Sherry. Go ahead and kick it off.
Hi, my name is Sherry, and you have just tuned into Beauty for Your Ashes, where everything is made beautiful in its time. It is a pleasure to be with every one of you here tonight. We are so excited to share the things that we have experienced and to have you to come into the room to experience just a wonderful night of empowerment, of being uplifted and encouraged. I am the founder of Beauty for Your Ashes. I am a licensed therapist, and I've been working with women who have experienced all types of trauma for over 20 years. I also work with the women who are addicted to drug and alcohol, mental health. So it's an array of things that I do within that therapeutic arena. I'm just so happy once again, and I'm glad to be here. I have my co-host here, Valerie. You all are going to be glad to meet her. She has some wonderful things to say tonight, and we have our other speaker here, Crystal, who's going to introduce herself. So I'll turn it over to our co-host, Valerie, to continue.
Hey, y'all. Hey, how are you doing? My name is Valerie. I am so honored to be a part of this program. I'm also Valerie, the owner of Purpose for Wellness. I am a domestic violence survivor. I'm an international best-selling author. I'm a speaker. I am an energy worker. I am an author. I'm just so many things, but it's all good because my main focus is to empower, inspire, equip, and educate women so that the things that I've been through will help you to get through. So it is my pleasure to be here, and it is my pleasure to welcome our guest, Crystal. So, Crystal, thank you for being a part of our panel tonight. So introduce yourself to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, my name is Crystal Johnson. I currently work as a licensed and registered occupational therapist, concentration with babies with special needs. Um, and, I dibble and dabble with some real estate investing, and I'm also an energy worker as well. And I'm just grateful that Sherry has invited me to this platform to share my story as well as to help somebody that needs to get over, you know, these life situations.
Amen. That's right. Amen. And Tanya, do you want to say anything?
Yes, I'm really glad to be able to share my platform today. Y'all know I have been directed to be a little bit still, so I had the opportunity to share the platform with these ladies with regard to something that is critical. You know me and the statistics. I think it's important to set the stage with the statistics, and then
Yes.
as they go ahead and share, as they normally do on their page. But in the United States, and this is 2020 data. In the United States, more than 10 million adults experience domestic violence annually. So that's 1 in 4 women, one, two, three, four, 1 in 4. In every group of four that you see, in women, 1 in 4 experiences domestic violence, and 1 in 10 men. Okay. So it's not just one sided. So, approximately, from 2016 to 2018, the number of intimate partner violence victimizations in the United States increased by 42%. Increased by 42%. So that's just, to me, a sign that we really need to take a deeper look at this in so many different ways. And this is what I think that these ladies are able to do. So, like I said, I'm really glad to be able to share the platform with them and go ahead and bring us that information and help save lives.
So I'm going to, Crystal, she's already introduced herself, but I want to say I met Crystal 5 years ago, and I met her at this beautiful event that they were having for all. It was a lot of politicians. It was around the time when it was going to be voting, and it was a lot of politicians there. And I met Crystal 5 years ago, and lo and behold, it was a divine connection. We've been friends ever since. She is funny. She's fun to be around, and she recently shared her short story with me. I couldn't understand why some of the things she was doing. Why is she doing that? Why is she saying that? And then she began to tell me it was a defense mechanism from like we were talking about earlier, mistrust because of some things that she had been through. So Crystal is going to go now and tell you a little bit about her story. And if you would just start, Crystal, about your age and just take us through your story about where it started from and how old you were when you experienced domestic violence.
Well, I met, my son's father when I was 16, actually, and he was 20. So I was, dating a whole man. Okay. At least I thought. So, fast forward, after the meeting and things like that, it wasn't really like that far out that, I started to notice like different things like, lying, cheating, you know, maybe demanding sex, when I wasn't willing to participate, blaming others for how he felt, or this is the reason why, he did what he did because of what I did, things like that, and being young, it was kind of hard to process because it was like, and then, it kind of like started me to think, well, what's wrong? Like, oh my God, well, what did I do? Like, why are you always, always on the defense or always wanting to like find something wrong? So that's pretty much how it kind of started from there, and that was some of the red flags as well.
So early on, when you started dating him at 16, you started noticing some of the red flags that were going on. So
Mm-hmm.
how did you respond to some of the red flags that you started noticing? Because a lot of times we see red flags, but we just keep it going.
Back then, I ignored them. I just flat out ignored them.
Right.
I ignored them.
But
I knew I knew my inner spirit was like, this ain't right, but I ignored it. And, some of that was based on age, and just not really not knowing,
And being young, because you said you were 16. So at the age of 16, some of these things are irrelevant to us because at 16, who knows red flags?
Exactly.
It's not
exactly.
like you are taught, okay, this is what happens. This is a red flag. This is a red flag. This isn't. And a lot of times what we do is we see that red flag, we identify it as a red flag, but sometimes we want to allow it to be like a yellow flag, like to proceed with caution because we think we can change it, or it's a red flag and we just are going to go anyway,
Exactly.
and we also
just like the red light.
Exactly.
It's red, you're supposed to stop, but you still gonna go through it because you want to do something, you want to get to the next phase maybe faster, or maybe you feel as though there's something going to change or shift.
Right. And that's the thing. And for you being so young, I found, in my experience and in some of my learning that the red flags are there, but it's where we are that we can't accept them. It's where we are in our own, self, like, are we vulnerable? Are we lonely? Those types of things that, blind us from seeing those different flags, so, and especially at such a young age.
Right. Right.
So, Crystal, go further into your story. You were 16 years old. You was with someone that was much older than you. So, as you continued on there, when you started noticing that something was not right with it, like what was the process of the things you started going through with this individual? And get
You
comfortable.
know, extreme mood swings. One minute they're all loving, the next minute, it's a problem. It's an outburst of something. I can't even say what it would be. It would just be so minimum. Of course, like I said, cheating. Having girls come up to me saying, oh, I was with, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it was crazy, you know, it was crazy. And I'm just like, this ain't right. But, again, I ignored it. I proceeded, and fast forward, it was like on and off, on and off. And then, my last year of high school, I, a few weeks before graduation, I got pregnant. So, I decided I'm going to go through this pregnancy, and I'm like, okay, he wanted a child. Like, this is going to serve him good,
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So you figured having a baby for him would keep you both together.
Well, I didn't intentionally go into it like, let's have a baby, but I got pregnant, how that
Right.
is. And then, I decided to go forth with the pregnancy, but in the back of my mind, I was like, oh yeah, you bringing forth somebody else's seed. So let's see how this is going to work. And honestly, to be perfectly honest, things got worse.
How long were you in the relationship before you started to identify his behavior changes?
I would say it was at like really being in tune. I would say it was after when my son was born. I would say it took after he was born. He was a few months.
Mm-hmm.
He was a few months, and thanks to my mother as well, with her, background in psychiatric, she came to me one day and she was just like, he acts out. He has outbursts every 4 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, me being young still, I'm like, I didn't know nothing about that. And she was like, pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, every 4 to 6 weeks, you couldn't get past 2 months. There was some type of outburst, over the stupidest thing, like it just out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was like, oh gosh. And then that just kind of like just got excessively worse. But but before that, the first physical incident happened 2 weeks after he was born. I was driving and, got into an altercation over what? I cannot even remember. And that's when he physically punched me on this side of my face. So, I'm driving just the right side. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, what just happened?
Like, what did I do?
What did I do?
Right.
Like to be punched while you driving. So, you know what I'm saying? That's dangerous. So you putting all of us at risk. And I just was like, oh my God, like, so, of course, automatically in my head, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? I was scared. I was worried about the baby, I just wanted to get to wherever I needed to get. So that was like dropping him off, and I told my mother and she was just like, of course, this is unacceptable. Of course, my silly self, I still, was like questioning everything. And it's funny because I did go press charges.
Mm-hmm.
And something that the officer said, he said, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And he was just like, go take a few days and process it and then come back and let me know for sure. And I was like, I was wondering why he said that. But he explained. He said, because what happens is that women they're known for wanting to press charges or call the cops. And then as soon as we start the process or come to get the person, we renege. We don't want it. Because we're thinking, oh God, we don't want him hurt, or we don't want him to get locked up. And he was right. Because then I never came back.
Mm-hmm.
When if I did it then it could have stopped everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I went against my better judgment.
And that's something that we all do. When I press charges, I press charges. Well, I wanted him under the jail. Why is he out? Why are you talking to me? Why? I had no remorse about pressing charges, about him being put in jail, none of that. But again, and not to just keep, reiterating on the fact that you were young, and a lot of us aren't young. Wasn't young. It was a year ago, so I was not young.
Right.
But when you are not familiar with the red flags, like do they have a course, red flags to look for in your mates? Even for men, even for women. There's no tutorial for that. You have to learn from experience. So if we don't know them, we can't identify them. And then, when you learn what they are and how some of them are so minute, or there are things that you think are cute, because, oh, he cares so much about me. He wants to keep me away from my friends, or he cares so much about me, I don't have to have a job because he's going to take care of me. That's the control and power, that they have. And that's what they're trying to gain, like, and belittle you as they gain the things that they want to have power and control over you. And if you don't know that, like one of the things, and it was my experience, like one of the things he did, I was like, oh my God, that's so nice. That's so good for, I felt, oh my God, this is so awesome for you to do that. No, it wasn't. It was, his way of gaining control. But if you don't know, you don't know. So what were some of the other red flags? You said he had power and control, but then it became physical. And so was it physical from that point on?
After the first incident, it didn't happen again until like a few months later. So my son was like around 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was we happened to be at, his place, and a friend of his had stopped past. And he was holding, his friend stopped past. So what I did is I said, well, let me go to the car, to give them space to talk. I mean, you don't need to be up in grown men's business. If they're talking privately, I gave them that respect. And to him, he felt as though that I was being disrespectful, and I just walked off.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't go far. I just went to the car, and the house was right there. So with all that being said, he snatched the baby, went in the house, called me a bitch, and slammed the door. So I was like, hold on, I ain't used to nobody calling me no big. So I went in the house, and I'm like, what is going on? I was just, moving out the way so that you guys can talk in privacy. And I was just like, well, I see you upset. Let me have the baby back, and I'll just go home. So I took the baby, I put him on my hip on my right side. And after that, he commenced to beat me to a pulp. But I held on to my baby. And I mean, he pounded my head and my face so bad, I didn't know what was happening. But then the funny thing was, after you were done, you run off screaming. And I should be the one screaming, but I'm holding on to the baby. You know what I mean? I'm like, why are you screaming? So I immediately, ran out the house, running down the street. I had just got my hair done. And people were like, they didn't realize that I was bleeding from my head, from my eye. And everyone's like, oh, your hair looks so good. And I'm like, huh? It's not funny, but this is what people were seeing. But I'm running for dear life with this baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down the street, and then I went down another street. And by the grace of God, one of his best friends actually lived down on that street. And he saw me. He was like, hey, Crystal, how you doing? And when I turned, to see who it was, he immediately was like, oh, my God. And he just kind of scooped us up and took us into the house. And then, we had to call the ambulance and things like that. But It was bad. It was really bad. My example of the beating would be, remember the episode from Martin when Tommy Hearns and Martin got into a scuffle? Well, I was lumped up really, really bad. Of course I had to go to, get the ambulance, but the baby had to, get x-rayed because he had like a little small contusion on his little face because I was holding him the whole time that I was getting beat. So it was bad.
So I think Tanya, you want to say something, Tanya? I think you're muted.
No, she's not.
I sure am. But what was interesting, based on what you said, is that intimate partner violence is most common against women between the ages of 18 and 24. So given that you ladies are really focused on that and really making a difference there, that is the age group that, by far is impacted the most. So very young. That's very young.
That's the age where you think you're in love, you want to be loved, you have a baby, like, yeah. No. No.
Yeah. It's also a subset of childhood abuse as well. In some cases. So very,
I never had a spanking. I was a good cooperative little girl. That's why I think my family was like, well, how the heck did you end up, going through this? Or why did you allow it to happen, being as though that I was very clear early on, like, I'm not getting spanked. Just tell me what you need me to do and I'll do it. Because I don't want nobody hitting me. But,
wow.
I guess it's different when you're in a love relationship. You're trying to be, accommodating and all this other stuff. And, not good.
So,
go
ahead, Val. Go ahead.
That just brings to the surface of, when others look from the outside in, that's exactly what they say. How did she allow this? How come she doesn't do this? How come?
Exactly.
How come is because we didn't do it. We didn't ask for it. It's not our fault. We are not the ones with the personality disorder. It is the abuser with the personality disorder. So that's what people don't understand. And they don't understand, just like Sherry's book, The Many Layers of Domestic Violence. There are many, many layers. There are numerous, copious reasons why women allow these things to happen, why they don't leave. The sheer fact that, like you had a baby, you wanted to have a family.
Right.
Some people don't leave because they don't work. He works, so they have no work history, no place to live, no insurance. They don't want their kids taken from them. So it's just, like she says, the many layers of domestic violence.
So what is some of the things you started noticing? Because like you gave one incident where you experienced the physical violence. What kind of patterns did you start noticing as time went on? Because people would wonder, like Val said, well, what did you stay for? And I know, like it was clear you had a baby. You were trying to make your family work. But what were some of the patterns that you identified and that had continued the process of you staying? Because some people don't understand sometimes, and especially when you're young, your thought process is not, I want to leave. It's like, okay, maybe I can work this out. Maybe I can fix it. Maybe he'll change.
Right. And I thought all of those things. All I knew was that there was a pattern, but what triggered it, it could be anything. So there was no specific thing why it would be triggered. All I knew it was cyclical. It was like every 4 to 6 weeks. I don't know if it was the full moon. I don't know what it was, but it was exactly every 4 to 6 weeks. So, you walking on eggshells because it's like you don't know it's because you walked away, or you said something, or you did something. There was no specific reason. It just happened.
And then you start to doubt yourself, and that's where that power comes in, where they take your power, because you lose self-confidence. You start wondering, what is it that I did? I'm not any good. And you start trying to do, no matter what you do, it's never good enough,
It's
because there's
never good enough.
always going to be something that they find that is wrong. So then you start feeling inadequate, not only in this relationship that you were currently in, but when you get in other relationships, you don't feel any confidence in yourself, because you're afraid, am I going to say something wrong? Am I going to do something wrong? And then your perception of the person becomes very distorted because of what you have been through. So,
Right.
one of the things I want to ask you is, what was your turning point when you started noticing these patterns that were going on? You had a son. Why don't you tell them what type of challenges you had with your son?
Well, the turning point was I knew that this wasn't normal or acceptable on many levels. I knew I wanted better for myself and my son. And in the midst of this, and it's very important, and I know a lot of people are like, how did you get through it? But in the midst of, even with all this verbal and physical abuse, after my son had turned a year, he started experiencing a lot of developmental delays. He was fine, and come to find out, fast forward, he was diagnosed with autism. So he was going through all of these different behaviors and, delays and things like that. So it was very difficult. Like, now I'm dealing with this from the dad, and now I'm dealing with all this people from my son. And I'm just like, so I just knew that moving forward, I had to go, because if this boy has any chance of achieving anything, I had to do it by myself. It couldn't be with him.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, you started looking at your son was your motivating force for you to start turning the pages.
He was, because no child should be born into no type of mess like that, and I wasn't, so therefore he shouldn't have, and I wanted to correct that. So I was just like, I knew I had a long road ahead of me in regards to his development, and I knew that needs to be my primary focus. So once I cut ties, then I was able to soak into him.
Right. So at that point, when you started noticing all that and you started looking at your son, you started thinking about him. What was your steps in your mind of, I got to get away from him? Because all of us have that thing in our mind, we're like, I got to get away. But sometimes it's a fear that comes over, because if I get away, he's going to stalk me. He might beat me to a pulp. He may shoot me. Because what women don't understand, a lot of times when they try to get away, that's one of the most dangerous points of when you're in an abusive situation, because it escalates at times. It begins to really escalate to the point where you become afraid to leave. And there's somebody out there listening to you tonight that feels like, I can't leave because I have children. What if he hurt my children? What if he killed my children? Because women have experienced that. But you escaped, I escaped, so many different people have escaped, whether it was economical, whether it was physical, verbal, emotional, psychological. Many women, us women here, have proven that you can leave. Yes, it is a scary thing. Yes, you do think about your children. Yes, you do think about, I might get hurt doing this. But there is a strategic plan and a safe plan, a way that you have to go about leaving. So, Crystal, talk about that.
Well, my plan was based off the pattern. So I knew that, again, every 4 to 6 weeks, there was going to be a blow up. So I waited like a thief in the night, basically waiting for the ball to drop, real simple. You never forget the day. It was on March 17th, 1990. We proceeded to go to Montgomeryville Mall. And he was pushing the baby in a stroller. I was walking slightly behind him. No big deal. But he made it a big deal. So he blew up, because no woman should be walking behind their man. She should be walking beside her man. So that's what the argument was about. So I see that it was getting ready to get out of control. I suggest we leave. We got in the car. We proceeded to drive down the road. Of course, he's yelling, wanting to, just want to just argue, and I'm just like, all because I did not walk beside him. So things get better. We're driving, and he turns around, looks at my son's shoes. and my son was wearing Joy Buster Brown. And anybody who is old enough to know Joy Buster Brown, they had nice shoes. And my aunts, compliment of my aunts, they bought him Joy Buster Browns because they wanted him to toddle around without messing up his good stuff, And I thought that was cool. So make a long story short, he turned around, was just like, he took the shoes off and threw them out the window. Off the baby. Wow. And I was like, oh, okay. And then proceeded to harass me about, do you got any money? And I was like, no. And he's like, you always got money. And he just proceeded to go in my bag and take $80. So already, I was like, this is my out. So, I dropped him off. I'm thinking like, okay, we good. Things got worse. So fast forward, a week or 2, 3, keep calling like, I apologize, this is never going to happen again. For real this time, like, and then it was like, he really like started getting like upset, like, we gonna get back together, right? No, no, sir. So every week it was the same question every day, and I wasn't budging. I was sticking to my plan. And then that's when things turned up a notch, the harassing, calling morning, noon, and night, the stalking, on weeks on end. And then it just had to get to the point where I had to take out a restraining order.
Smart
and
girl.
I didn't want to have to do that, but I had to, once I called the cop, from where I was living, he was a really nice sheriff, and he broke down what I needed to do, and I did it. And even that didn't go over easy at first. He still kept calling. So they told me, you have to take documentation every time he called or whatever he said, and then I had to report it. And I think it took like maybe 3 times after him doing that and me reporting him, and he got locked up. He was like, all right. So, I was able to finish out the year with the restraining order, but, it was tough. It was tough. And then, like I said, in the midst of that, dealing with my son and everything that he was going through and not really truly understanding at that time what was going on with him. So it was very tumultuous.
Because to talk about what you experienced once you finally left, what was your life like when you finally left?
What was life like when I left? I was able to take back my power, my control, my freedom. I didn't have to worry about somebody always, making me feel bad for what I said, what I did. I mean, what I was wearing, if I had a pimple on my face, it was just too much. And, I was just grateful I didn't have that type of stress anymore. But, I was taking on a different type of stress, like I said, with my son. But within all that experience, I made a promise to myself that, one, I'm going to love myself to the fullest. And I'm never going to allow anybody to treat me like that ever again. Ever. And I mean, man, woman, child, ever. I mean, I'm pretty much, I became like Sophia from The Color Purple. Like, I will kill you dead. Like, maybe not literally, but I mean, that was my thought then. Seriously, like that, I will kill you dead. And if it was going to either be with my mouth or something, because we're not going to do this again. We're not. Mm-hmm. And I really haven't had any other experience to this day of anybody wanting to, do that. I think they know now.
You might cut them.
Because you had a different type of fight. You was ready to fight. You was defensive. Like, I'm ready to fight. Don't even try it.
I don't nothing for anybody, but I was ready. Like, we could do this. So if you ready to throw your hand up, be ready. Because this time I'm going out with a fight. Like, what's up? Mm-hmm.
You know what? I wanted to revisit. You talked about the defense mechanism that you have now, and I'm pretty sure we were talking about defense mechanisms and how we can, as a survivor, because I hate to classify us as a victim, as a survivor, so many things trigger us, and sometimes not it's not meant, we're not maliciously doing it, or we're not, or we do it involuntarily because we're trying to protect ourselves. And the defense mechanism makes us look into things that aren't even there because of what we experience, from the relationship. So talk about, how you feel about, the defense mechanisms and how it interact with any new relationship you have, with a male or people in general. But specifically right now, how you deal with being in a relationship with someone else, and those triggers and that defense mechanism you
Triggers for me definitely is, how somebody speaks to me. Because I'm very mindful, although I'm very direct and, boisterous, I'm never coming off like disrespectful to anybody. That's never my intention. But when I see that and I sense that's a trigger. That's a trigger. Like, and I'm automatically like, some people be like, well, just let it go. I wanna fix it. Fix it meaning like I'm gonna address it. So I don't have no problem ruffling anybody's feathers and making them upset, because I feel as though if you was bold enough to say it or do it, then you should be ready and willing to receive what it is that I'm getting ready to tell you or show you. So even to this day, you still learning to like pick and choose your battles. But definitely your tone, somebody cussing at you, that they're major triggers, or just flat out disrespect. I don't really want to deal with you like that. I have to like literally fall back, as they would say, and evaluate whether or not if I even want to deal with you. And it's tough. It's tough because I don't have no problem cutting you off at the toes, as Sherry would say.
And she will do in a minute, male or female.
Male or female.
One thing, she will cut you off completely.
Yep.
Did you ever
like you never existed? Because what you won't do, like in my eyes, I will not allow you to disrespect me or hurt me in any way that is not in alignment with how I treat you. Because I'm looking at it like, well, how do I treat you? Because if I treat you, that way, then I can accept that. Like, okay, I deserve that. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm not treating you like that, and that's one thing I will ask you, do I treat you like that? Did I talk to you like that? Did I interact with you like that? And they're like, no, you not. Okay, then I don't expect that from you. Right. So when I get that in turn, it's a whole problem. And then it kind of distorts my whole thinking about that particular person, period. Moving forward, it would take like probably a long time for me to like see them for what they really are. Maybe it was just an accident. It was, what I mean? People make mistakes, but I be looking at them for a long time, like, I don't know if I can trust you now, because you coming out your mouth, crooked, or you doing something. I just, it's not sitting right with me. But it would take me a long time to move from that. At least I can be transparent about it.
Did you ever receive any type of therapy? Did you go to like a domestic violence advocacy program, or did you go to any type of therapy to help you to move forward?
No, I did not. Not immediately after. Years, many years later.
Okay.
Many years later.
But the good thing is that you did go.
Yeah, I did go, but a lot of my therapy, I would say, came through me putting myself through school and then becoming a therapist. So I school was very cathartic for me, very healing for me, in more ways than one, not just for myself, but also how I looked at my son's situation and how, I wanted to be a therapist because of him and how I could help other children with his same condition. So,
Crystal, highlight some of the. Go ahead. What were you going to say? Go ahead. What you was going to say.
Go ahead.
Highlight some of the fantastic things that you've done with your son. Although your son is autistic, you have done some absolutely phenomenal things with your child.
Well, I mean, I worked hard, and I don't want to go without, giving other people credit to, the wonderful workers that also assisted me in his development, like the TSS workers, my family, that also assist, with helping me with him. But I'm here to say he will be 33 tomorrow. He'll be 33.
Oh,
And although, autism has definitely taken his voice, so he doesn't talk much, but, outside of that, he's basically grown up to be just a wonderful, wonderful human being. I mean, he's responsible, he cooks, he cleans, he does everything that you want an adult child to do.
great work ethic. Don't forget this great
He
work
got
ethic.
great work ethic like his mother and the rest of the Johnsons. He has a regular job, which, a lot of people, they have special needs. A lot of them don't get an opportunity to have regular jobs. So I'm grateful that I worked hard and instilled those qualities in him, and he loves to work. He don't care about the money. It's just about purpose for him. So I'm grateful that it's just not about him. So, but he's thriving very well, and I'm
One of the
glad
things.
that huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead. You said you're glad
I'm
that.
just glad
Sorry.
I had the opportunity to be able to do that. I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm glad I had the opportunity to really sow into him without the distraction.
Mhm.
And I think that's beautiful because it's remarkable because you left. These are the benefits. You get to still see your kid live. You've done some wonderful things with your kids. And one thing Crystal has not mentioned, and she normally does not mention it, I didn't even know it. I was invited to Crystal's home one day. She had a Christmas brunch. Was it a Christmas brunch you had?
New
She
Year's
invited me.
brunch.
It was a New Year's brunch. It was yes, right. It was New Year's Day. She invited me to a New Year's brunch, and one of her girlfriends were talking to me, and Crystal had done some therapeutic work with her child, and she said, "You didn't know that Crystal was one of the most sought after therapists, occupational therapists in the city of Philadelphia." And I turned around, my mouth open, and said, "Crystal, you never told me that." This mother spoke so highly of how she worked, how Crystal worked with her child, how Crystal was in papers and all kinds of things, how people all across the state of Pennsylvania was seeking out for Crystal because of the type of work she does in occupational therapy. So she is one of the most highly recommended and sought after therapists in the city of Philadelphia. And I just want to speak to somebody out here today that regardless to where you are and what you're going through, you heard her trauma and you hear some of the struggles that she still have, but even in the midst of it, you can still have trauma in your life, work through your trauma and still have triumph. She had an autistic child who she's done a wonderful job with. Her child is thriving, excelling. I'm continuing. Another thing is she's into real estate. She briefly talked about that. Crystal owned property. Crystal has some goals to do some big things that I'm not going to even talk about, but she has different properties and things, and she's a landlord. So she has her hands in different things that she's doing, and I am so proud of her. She's a very strong woman, and despite everything that she's been through, she is just a remarkable friend. I love being with her because she has so much character. So much character. She's very considerate. If you call her, she returns your call. She doesn't return it right away. She will do it. She's just a very thoughtful person. Despite what she's been through, it has never raped her of who she could be in life. And I just want to encourage somebody who may be listening today, regardless to what you're going through, don't lose yourself in it. There is time for you to get out of where you are. We have our number posted here, domestic violence hotline. And as you can see, it's 1-800-799-SAVE. And if you just call that number, there are places for you. Do not be afraid. And I know during the holiday, there are so many different women who experience domestic violence. And I want to say to whoever's listening tonight, I am doing a giveaway. I am going to give away my book to 5 people who responds in the chat or whatever. Just inbox me. My name is Shari, Sheri, on Facebook, and Durricks, Durricks. If you inbox me, I will give you my book free as a gift. You may not have experienced domestic violence, but you may know someone who is in an abusive situation right now, and you can give that book to them as a special gift to them. So if you would inbox me, I'll be more than glad to make sure that you get a copy of this signed book from me. And I believe that there'll be many things in there to absolutely help you.
Wonderful. Make sure, Sherry, that you put your information in the chat, okay? And I'll make sure
Yes,
to post it.
I'm trying to find it. This platform is new, StreamYard, and I'm learning it. So I'm going to find a chat.
Okay, you can actually put it on Facebook. Just go ahead and put it in the Facebook chat.
Okay.
Okay, and then
All
it'll
right.
transfer right over. It'll transfer right over. I think, Crystal, you are
Oh, the
absolutely
Facebook Messenger?
no, just on the Facebook page in the comments.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, you're and you're so humble, Crystal.
Oh,
Okay,
thank you so much. Thank
you
you
are
so much.
so
That's so
humble.
Thank you.
I think that the points were, were well addressed. Your story is one that, unfortunately is duplicating itself, ridiculously. Nationwide, there are over 19,000 calls a day. 19,000 calls a day to the domestic violence hotline. All right. So those are people who have, had the opportunity to call, and there's so many more that that have it. All right. Any closing words, ladies? You're amazing, Crystal. Thank you
I
so
wanted to
much.
just leave you with, because of Crystal's age at the time of her domestic violence, to inform people that there is a domestic violence organization for young people, and you usually talk to someone that's your peer, that's your age, because it also happens in relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend relationships. So that is loveisrespect.org, the phone number. There is no phone number, but you can go right to that loveisrespect.org, and you will find all the information that you need. So that is for like all of the young people, I guess from teenagers to their 20s, can go there and be able to reach out to someone, and someone that is a peer will, or someone that's been through it, will reach out to you.
This is wonderful. There's a great comment I just have to read. It's from Najee Kelvin. I want to thank you all for having this discussion. I am very proud of all of you. I did grow up, watch my mom go through domestic violence, and I swore I would never be a man like that. Thank you, ladies. You don't know the impact.
So much. Thank you. And I also want to say that we also reach men too. Val and I definitely have a compassion for men. So we don't want to leave men out, because men do experience a lot of domestic violence. There are a lot of statistics. Men have even been murdered by the hands of women. So it's not a one-sided thing. And our discussion in our shows is not a man-bashing thing. It's to bring awareness and empowerment, and for someone to actually be able to escape the place that they are currently in, and know that they can have life after being in an abusive situation. So men, we want you to know that we love you, that we're here to support you, and anytime you would like to that you would like to be a guest, you are more than welcome. We would love to have you, and to also hear some men's stories also. So going into the new year, we look forward to you men coming forward and giving your stories also. Even if you're a man, as this gentleman got on and said that he watched his mother go through a domestic violence situation, how that impact you, what it made you feel like. And like he said, he didn't want to be that way, but I'm quite sure he went through some emotional things watching that as a child. So it was beautiful. And we're just happy to be here again. Crystal, before we close out, would you look into that camera, and what would you say to somebody who's looking, that is at the end of their rope and they feel like they cannot make it or another day?
Get out. Get out, because at the end of the day, as a woman, queen, princess, you deserve to be loved, cared, and supported and uplifted at all times. And if you don't have anybody in your life that you're dealing with that's not doing that, then they're not for you. Period.
Amen.
If they're gonna raise their hand and hit you, belittle you, berate you at every turn, they're not for you. Period.
Absolutely.
Love yourself enough to walk back and find someone who wants to, because there are good men who want to do that. They want to love on a good woman. They want to care for a good woman. They want to support and uplift a good woman.
Crystal, once again, we thank you so much for being on our show. Val, if you would just close us out with your words of wisdom, we would be so happy.
First of all, I too want to thank you, Crystal, and thank you for being bold enough to give your story, to break the silence so that other people can experience what it is like to be in a domestic violence situation and how to overcome that, how to be rise up into the queen that you are. So we thank you for that. And before I close, I also want to let people know that I am offering a self-care challenge on January the 4th at 8 p.m. because as women, we lack in taking care of ourselves. You know, I want to tell you the difference between self-care and self-pampering, showing you how meditation, how breathing can work for you to take you out of your monkey chatter, out of your mind chatter, do a distance Reiki share with you, and just show you how to rise up into your highest vibration. And if you're interested in that workshop, it is free. You can reach me at Valerie@purposedforwellness.com.
Okay.
On behalf of Shari and myself, we want to say thank you to everyone. Everyone have a happy holiday. To all those families that are unfortunately in a domestic violence situation, we will keep you all in prayer and keep tuning in. I know that one day you will want to break your silence and speak up. So we are here to welcome you with open arms. So thank you so much.
And we also like to thank Tanya, our host here, Tanya, that helped us get through this platform, because Valerie and I are still learning how to work these platforms. But I tell you, she is such a wonderful woman who works behind the scenes, and she has helped us on this platform. So Tanya, thank you so much. I am so grateful for Tanya lending you to this platform to be a blessing to the both of us. Thank you so much. And I want you to know I really, really appreciate you.
That is my pleasure. There's so many things going on in the world, and I've said all year long that it is time, and it is time fits in so many places and ways. It is time for us to make the necessary changes, to care for ourselves, whatever it is. Okay, find your center, because it is time for you to move forward and continue to inspire others and yourselves. Thank you so very much, ladies. Thanks to my audience for joining us, and y'all be blessed. Happy holiday, everyone. Take care now.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.